All right, so we just saw Joe Biden's make or break press conference, and I think it was neither a make nor break. I think, in a certain sense, that makes the headaches worse inside the party
Yes.
and inside the
Yep.
campaign because
Yep.
he was not good enough to turn the momentum around, but he was not bad enough to the point where he'll be out tomorrow.
You earlier explained confidence in your vice president.
Yes.
If your team came back and showed you data that she would fare better against former President Donald Trump, would you reconsider your decision to stay in the race?
No, unless they came back and said, there's no way you can win. Me. No one's saying that. No poll says that.
So now this goes into next week. And now you see the reports from today where you have Biden's inner circle. His aides are saying there's no path. Huffington Post reported that, citing the New York Times reporting. You have his inner circle saying the writing is on the wall, but he didn't give you anything tonight that forces him out of the race tomorrow. So this now goes through the weekend, and you're going to see a lot of shuffling around this weekend. You're going to see a lot of panic. What do we do? Because now the clock is really ticking. The Republican convention is next week. And then the Democrats do plan on nominating Joe Biden virtually early in advance of their convention. So they are now running out of time. This did not deliver a knockout blow to the point where he's going to be out within 24 hours. I think he is in through the weekend. I have said that the party elites are trying not to chime in. Barack Obama would love to get out of this without chiming in. So would Hakeem Jeffries, so would Pelosi, so would Schumer, Clyburn, same thing. I think this forces their hand. You know, you have Biden's staff now saying he can't win, saying we need somebody else. George Clooney, in his op-ed, said that all of the insiders he talked to, all of them, without exception, felt he should drop out, even the ones who are not saying it publicly.
Right.
If Biden melted down tonight, they'd have gotten out of this probably without having to open their mouth. He'd probably be out tomorrow or over the weekend. Since this wasn't an absolute disaster, he makes it through the weekend, and it now falls to the party leadership to make their voice known if they want him out. I suspect they will. I think he will be out of this race soon because I do think it is going to come to that, and I do think they're going to do it. And I think he's going to have no choice but to listen. You even saw in that last answer a slight hedge from this is a closed matter to, well, if they show me I can't win, I'll step down. And yes, we have other people who can also beat Trump. I just think I'm the best. He did create a little window to step out, and I think now that this press conference came and went without a complete meltdown, and yes, there were the sound bites, obviously, before the press conference, introducing Zelensky as Putin, and then right off the bat, the Vice President Trump gaffe.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president.
There's going to be a little bit of sound that gets tweeted around and things like that. But you didn't have a debate-style meltdown. Mm-hmm. That extends his timeline a little bit and puts the pressure on the insiders and the real power players to just say publicly he has to go. I suspect they will do that, and I suspect he will listen to them. But this press conference definitely extended the timeline further, bought him a few days, and creates now a few days of real stress and real chaos and real turmoil at the upper echelons of the Democratic Party.
All right. So I keep saying this, and I'm not saying you're wrong. This crazy bastard is going to hold on with his fingernails and just refuse to go. So the real question is, what does it take for Joe Biden, with his Nixonian resentments about class, about being looked down on, about not going to the right schools, on top of having half his brain gone, but the resentment, the core resentment still remaining within his fogged mental state. What does it take? He is the president. He does have these committed delegates. As we know, the Democratic voter base are not the sharpest knives in the drawer. What he's saying about support, I mean, it's true. Look at from a couple days ago, that Axios article, I think it's accurate. They were saying within the full conference of Congress when they met, most of them were still standing behind Biden. I don't think that's not true. Now, certainly, I'm sure it's shifted because some people like Pelosi are kind of signaling they might want to move away from Biden. But what do you do if you have a completely unsuitable president who, because of your own rigging of your own primaries, has the nomination locked up, nobody with any significant delegates outside of him, and he just refuses to go? He just will not step down. What do? Do they go 25th Amendment? Are they able to release Biden's delegates, or does he have to do that?
He said they were free to vote for who they want. Now, I don't know that that's. I didn't think
I
it
don't
worked
know
that
that
way.
that's
I think
official. Just
I think
saying
those are pledged delegates. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I'm not sure about the internal processes there, but I've said from the beginning their path to getting him to step away is through the family. And because they are carnies, if you offer them something good enough, they could change their minds. But clearly right now, they are as determined to hold that office as he is. And they just seem to have cultivated this bunker mentality. It's us against the elites, which, as the congressman pointed out, we covered that today. Those are the same elites that installed him. He didn't mind them then.
Right. Yeah. No, it definitely creates a tense weekend. Because the results of this were very much inconclusive, which there were a lot of party insiders who, according to reports, were hoping for a meltdown so that it would be settled.
Right. Sure. Of
right?
course.
Exactly.
Of course.
They were hoping for a meltdown so they could get him out, because the polls are what they are. The trajectory is locked in. Nothing in this press conference expedited his exit, but none of it turned anything around. I mean, if anything, if you look at the substance of what he was saying, it was psychotic and suicidal saber rattling and warmongering. Yep. That you have to live in a completely alternate universe to believe what was even backed up by any semblance of
the
reality.
The inflation's great. The economy's great.
Putin's going to lose. Yep. Ukraine's going to win. I mean, it's just...
And what
insanity.
We really need a new industrial policy for is weapons. We're not making enough weapons in the West. Yep. We need more weapons manufacturing. All of this, see, this is what's crazy. Yeah, he didn't shit the bed, but it's like the Joker says in The Dark Knight, people will accept anything as long as it's according to the plan. But if you look at the plan, it's horrifying. So what's the plan? Endless war. And when he started talking about what Trump would do, end the Ukraine war, like he starts listing off things that most Americans would support. He's going to withdraw from NATO and end the Ukraine war. Where are the Americans who were up in arms against that, other than this very small coterie of elites that is overrepresented in the media?
Yeah, no. And as for like Macron's fears about that, I mean, if anything, you would think these European leaders would want Trump, because on the foreign policy front, he's going to be much more peaceful on that front, at least.
Right.
At least as far as far as it concerns them, right? I mean, not overall. I mean, he'll fund a genocide, in Gaza just as fast as Biden will. But in terms of like from France's perspective, I mean, what? He's not going to outlaw abortion in France. Right? Like our domestic policy doesn't affect them. NATO policy does. And it's just insane. It's just absolutely insane. But the other thing I do want to add before we wrap this segment is this was not exactly a quote unquote big boy press conference. He had the list of questioners. Now, if it comes out that he knew those questions in advance, that's going to be a major scandal. I don't know that it will. I don't know that he did know the questions in advance, but he seemed to be
I
prepared with a
would
level of
doubt
detail.
it because they would have been afraid of that leaking.
Probably because they don't trust the staff with it. But he did have a level of
Or the press
detail
at
ready
this
to
point.
go that was surprising, right? And that's why you could he really drew out the answers a lot, probably so he wouldn't have to take as many questions, right? He really drew out these answers
I felt like it
into
was
long
also
monologues.
to show, nope, see, my brain's not missing, folks.
Oh yeah. Well, that was also part of it. Sure. No, absolutely. Absolutely. So the verdict is Biden lives to fight another day, and this creates massive headaches over the next few days because this now creates a level of uncertainty that only people in very high places can resolve, right? Now it's going to come down to does the Democratic royalty, does the upper echelon of the party now open their mouths? Do they? They might not. I think they will. I'm not certain they will. I predicted Biden would not be the nominee last year, so I'm moving the ball down the field pretty good now. I'm not going to stop and kick a field goal here. I'm sticking with that. Am I 100% sure? No, but I think much better than 50-50 odds. They will figure out a way to get him out of the race because the fundamentals of the race are unchangeable at this point. He's going down, and he's going to drag not only the House and the Senate with him, but he's going to He's going to really sort of exercise the donors from the party. They're not going to be able to raise the kind of money that they would, even with a sure loser like Kamala, because at least with Kamala you can go through the motions of running a campaign.
Right.
Yeah.
And they can feel good about themselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that he, without Jill and Hunter pushing him, he is gonna absolutely refuse to step down. For anyone who spent time in the snows of New Hampshire, for any former Bernie bros out there, all I can say is relish this moment. You earned it. This is all their karma coming back to haunt them. This is pushing Bernie out and insisting that Biden was the guy. This is the end result. So take what little pleasure you can in watching them try to squirm out of this.
Yes, I agree with you on that.
Please clap.